You guys highlighted on your last earnings that tariffs could be a hit. We've now since had that 90-day reprieve. Is your business outlook changed?
I wouldn't say it's changed since yesterday dramatically, right? So
you never know.
You never know. And now we have 90 days to figure out what comes next. So we still are watching very closely. Certainly, all of the trade policy impacts to our business have been, we've tried to push through some pricing. We've tried to do some things to offset, but it's difficult to do anything in 90 days. I mean, 90 days is a very short period of time for businesses to react, but we try to do our best with that.
Are you rethinking your supply chain at all?
We have been. That all started really going back to the first Trump administration with the 301 tariffs, and then when COVID hit, obviously the importance of resiliency in your supply chain became very apparent. So we've been trying to create a more resilient supply chain over the last 5 or 6 years, and I think that's helping us now. I mean, we're able to react more quickly to some of these changes, even though 90-day periods are very short blocks of time. We're finding ourselves in a better position than I think we would have been if this were happening 5 or 6 years ago.
Is there a sense, though, I mean, longer term, when you talk about what your supply chain is going to look like, do you have any sort of visibility into what that's going to look like?
We do. We're going to continue to reduce our dependence on those higher tariff countries. So China is an example. So today, less than 10% of our supply chain comes from China, but that'll be less than 5% in 18 months, based on plans we've already had in motion, and this will obviously accelerate those. And where we go next is kind of the question, right? So there's going to be winners and losers as companies like ours rotate their supply chains into different countries. India has always held a lot of promise as a supply chain, as a trade partner for the U.S. I think that'll probably start to come to fruition more meaningfully in the next year or two.
Does it worry you at all, though, that maybe the trade fight that we're having now with China could shift to other countries? I mean, obviously, we have a relatively good relationship with India, but as companies sort of look for other countries to sort of do business with, is this going to be kind of that whack-a-mole where you're just kind of trying to stay one step ahead of the president?
I think that certainly is a risk, given the reciprocal trade formula that was built on the deficit, that you have a trade deficit with a country, that country could end up with some kind of tariff to help equalize the trade between those partners. So if everybody runs for the same door, and everybody runs for, say, India or one other country, then that might be a risk. I mean, that's something we have to watch. But I would say this, that as a country, if our big trade partner became India as opposed to China, that's probably better for the U.S., I think better for India, better for the world, perhaps, in terms of just, being partnered with a democratic country as opposed to, one that's not democratic.
Let's talk about the demand side. So one thing that's different this time is data center demand. How are you playing in that space?
Yeah, so we kind of two ways, right? So the indirect play on data center demand is as data centers come online, they use a tremendous amount of power, and that is having a destabilizing effect on the grid. So all of that demand side equation, that load growth that utilities haven't had to deal with in the last 25 years, they have to figure out how to accommodate that. And we just believe that destabilizing effect is going to show up in more power outages. And we're seeing the data show that. So that's one side of it. And obviously our backup power products are a great way for businesses and homeowners to protect against that happening. The other way, though, is to sell those types of products directly to the data centers for their own backup needs, right? So they need very, very high levels of reliability. So 4 and 5 nines of reliability. Their uptime guarantees for their customers are really critical for them. So it's mission critical power. And we provide products for that space as well. And right now, those products are in high demand.
Talk about those products in particular. How much are you investing in providing those products? Because this is a nascent market, right?
It is. It's a growing market, but it's still small. We're in the early innings of the capital cycle here that's going on. We built a new plant in Wisconsin. We're close to where we're headquartered. That was about a $65 million investment for us last year and into this year. Just opened that plant up. We'll produce some of these new products there, as well as opening up some capacity in some other plants. And then we've another $65, $70 million of equipment, to outfit the plant and to be ready to produce.
I am curious. I mean, the majority of your sales right now are here in the U.S., are domestic. Are there any plans to maybe expand a little bit more internationally?
Yeah, we have a really good international business based in Europe. They also have, we also sell in Asia. We sell into Latin America. And so it's a very global business that way.
Yeah.
Still, 85% of what we do is in the U.S. market.
Are there some of the issues here in the United States with regards to power reliability? Is that also an issue in some of those other markets?
I mean, look at the example of Spain and Portugal. Just happened, right? So, I mean, obviously, this is the type of situation. Lower power quality and higher power prices are we think, megatrends that are impacting not only the U.S. market, but all markets across the world.
How much does it cost to like build one of those big generators for a data center versus one for like my house?
Yeah, a single generator for a data center could be $1 million for one
To build.
single unit, correct.
Whew.
Yeah.
So how hard is it to build those? Like, so do you have to contract them before you build them? Or you
We
have
do,
to
yeah. So
put
you
out the outlay?
definitely, there's a longer sales cycle for those products. You know, there's a development cycle that's on the front end where the building is being outfitted and the site is being prepared. Those products would then be ordered, and you know, we'd have a lot of visibility to 40, 50 weeks worth of, you know, an opportunity before it became something that we put together and sent out into the world. But
Yeah, I'm curious about the DOE grant that you got, the $200 million grant from the Department of Energy here in the U.S. to help sort of bolster the situation in Puerto Rico. Have you gotten those funds, and if so, have you started to deploy them?
We have started to deploy them. The funds are flowing. And I would just say this about that program. I mean, it's a very important program aimed at low and middle income households, people who are the most vulnerable when outages happen, people who are a lot of times medically compromised. And so, you know, where it's not an option to be without power, right? You've got all types of medical devices in the home. They've kind of moved into the home today, oxygenation. You've got at-home dialysis. You've got people just mobility issues, things of that nature. Very important program. Puerto Rico, obviously well documented the grid challenges in Puerto Rico. Had another big outage in Puerto Rico about 10 days ago. So, you know, and our products worked flawlessly. We're rolling those out over the course of this year.